It's a sham, I tell you. Everything you know about mountains is a lie. What's the biggest mountain in the world?
Mount Everest.
Everest?
Mount Everest?
Mount Everest.
Mount
Everest. Mount Everest.
But that's like probably not true.
Okay, technically all of these people are correct. Everest is the tallest mountain when measured from sea level to its top, but it's also cheating. Mount Everest is over 29,000 feet tall, making its peak the closest thing to outer space in the entire world. To put that into perspective, if New York City had a building that tall, it would be humanity's greatest engineering achievement ever. That is over 10 times taller than the Burj Khalifa. But here's the thing, most of Everest's height comes from the Himalayan mountain range, which is the biggest and tallest mountain range in the entire world. In fact, 9 out of the 10 tallest mountains all reside here, and that is because their numbers are boosted. Think of it this way, saying Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world is a lot like saying I'm the tallest person in the world because I'm standing on a building. Yeah, it doesn't quite seem like it works, right? Defining the bottom of a mountain is kind of complicated, which is generally why sea level is always used. It's a nice universal height of 0. Everest may be 29,000 feet tall, but its base camp sits at over 17,000 feet tall, which, for the record, is also taller than every mountain in Europe. That's all of the Alps. Which, it seems fair to consider this as the base of Everest. I mean, it's literally in the name. So for the sake of this video, that means Everest is truly only 11,500 feet tall, making Everest overrated. Yeah, that's right, Everest kinda sucks. Acute mountain sickness, falls, avalanches, exhaustion, crevasses, exposure, and hypothermia. 17 people died last year on Everest. It's also super expensive, anywhere between $30,000 and $200,000. So you can wait in a line. Trash is becoming a big problem because so many people are going up there and they just leave all their trash. People are just crapping everywhere because there's no toilets up there. Don't get me wrong, the Himalayas are incredible, but Everest itself just is like, it kind of like lucked into the tallest mountain in the world. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna take the part of Everest that matters from base camp to its top. I'm gonna slice a 3D model of it at that point, and I can slide it across the whole world. So let's go visit some other mountains and see how they stack up to Everest. Oh, Mount Fuji over in Japan. Let's check that out. So now I've got Everest here near Mount Fuji. Okay, Mount Everest is still bigger than Mount Fuji, even from its base. Let's look at some other mountains. Matterhorn is probably one of the most beautiful mountains out there. Yep, Matterhorn is definitely not remotely as big as Mount Everest. If I was to actually raise this up to its proper elevation, whoo-wee, look at that. So this is an accurate representation of where Everest would sit in the Alps. The base camp of Everest is still so much higher than all of these mountains around here. So K2 is located in the Karakoram range here. This is the base camp of K2 right here. And Everest looks like it's basically the same. Oh, it's just a little bit taller. Just a little bit taller. There's no line at K2. A lot of people thought Mount Kilimanjaro was the biggest mountain in the world. Let's go there. Mount Kilimanjaro is a volcano. In fact, it's the largest freestanding mountain in the world. I've aligned Everest with the base of Kilimanjaro, and if I slide it over, it just disappears right underneath it. Look at that. So what this means is that I can stand on top of Kilimanjaro and look down upon Everest. What's that little hill off in the distance? Oh, you know, it's just Mount Everest. So you might notice that I'm actually running all this in real time inside of Unreal Engine right now, and that's thanks in large part to Puget Systems, which provided me with a new computer. Puget actually works with you to figure out what your needs are, and so they knew that I'm gonna be doing a lot of 3D stuff, so I got a 4090 in this computer, I got some fast CPU and memory in here. Look, our entire studio runs on Puget Systems at this point. Like, just look around. All these computers are all Pugets. They're all Puggets. You know, Puget Systems is from Seattle. Mount Rainier is one of like the main landmarks of all of Washington State. Let's turn on Everest here. Look at that. It's smaller. It's smaller than Rainier. All right, Washington, showing up here, bigger than Everest. Again, none of these mountains are taller than Everest, but from base to top, Mount Rainier is bigger than Everest. These mountains are all awesome, but there's one in particular that is the biggest mountain in the world, and that mountain is Denali, up in Alaska. I love this mountain, it's super cool. Denali comes in at 20,310 feet tall, but the base of Denali is all the way down at 2,000 feet altitude. There's even some places in the park around the mountain that are as low as 200 feet above sea level, where you're looking up at something 20,000 feet higher than you. There's no other place on the planet where you can have that sort of elevation gain just with your vision. And it's that contrast that makes Denali truly impressive to me. It's the highs of the actual pretty tall peak. 20,000 feet is still really high, all the way down to the low grassland surrounding it. But here's the thing though, all mountains of this scale are gonna look equally big. It's really hard to discern which mountains are bigger than others. It's a problem with our human ability to judge scale. It's why you can tell that I'm pretty high up, because you know roughly how tall a human is, but a mountain, at a certain point, it's all just kind of like, ah, big! Down in the center of Australia is a big old rock in an otherwise super flat landscape. It's one of the most iconic natural features in the entire country. Just by looking at it, however, it's impossible to say how large it is, like maybe the size of a football field? No, it would be way bigger than a football field. In fact, it would be taller than every building in Los Angeles. At over 1,100 feet tall, it stands out from the landscape like the vista of a city skyline. And to make this fact even crazier is that the majority of this rock is buried underneath the ground. Speaking of under the surface though, there's one more mountain that is far and away the biggest mountain on Earth, but to find it, we have to go below sea level. It's the tallest mountain in the world.
The tallest, but not the biggest.
Mountain, it's like something in Hawaii, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, she's correct. Hawaii, more specifically Mauna Kea, is the biggest mountain in the entire world. It just usually doesn't count because like 2/3 of it is underwater. But if you count from its base at the ocean floor to its peak, it is 33,000 feet tall, making it over 10,000 meters tall. That's a very exclusive club of one. Yeah, the Hawaiian Islands actually have a crazy origin story. Let me tell you about it. Hotspot volcanism. Essentially what you have is a hotspot of magma underneath the Earth's crust. So what you end up getting is what's called a seamount. It's a little volcano that's underneath the bottom of the ocean. All right, so this is basically just lava and it's forming a little Hawaiian chain, but it's fixed in relation to the rest of the planet, unlike the tectonic plates that are floating around on top of it. And as the plate moves, it leaves a trail of mountains behind it. Some of them got big enough to breach the ocean surface, like Midway, for example, but the vast majority of them never did. The most interesting thing about them is that they actually trace out the motion of the Pacific plate over the last 80 million years. You can clearly see a point where the tectonic plate changed direction about 43 million years ago when it began crashing into a neighboring plate. And now we're here at present day, Hawaii. There you have it. This is gross. The main island of Hawaii is the biggest mountain on Earth. Nothing else comes close. The base of the big island is over 100 miles wide, creating a bit of an optical illusion. It doesn't appear tall because it's so wide. So let's try something. If I shrink down the width of this mountain until it's as skinny as Mount Everest, we can get a more accurate picture of just how tall Hawaii really is. It's nearly 3 times taller than Everest. From base camp, of course, you know, the Everest that counts. What's crazy about this though is that Hawaii could have been much larger if it wasn't distributed across dozens of different volcanoes. Imagine how big it could have been if the tectonic plate never moved. You see, there's one more mountain that I need to talk about, but for that, we need to go to Mars. Olympus Mons is not only the biggest mountain on Mars, it's the biggest mountain in our entire solar system, reaching over 72,000 feet above the Martian landscape around it. Thanks to the lower gravity and lack of tectonic plates, the same volcanic activity that formed Hawaii was able to create this geological monstrosity the size of Arizona. At over 370 miles wide, Olympus Mons is so huge that it looks more like a pancake than a gargantuan mountain. It suffers the same optical illusion as Hawaii. Although, if I give it the same skinny treatment, it becomes strikingly tall. The peak of it reaches the cruising altitude of the U-2 spy plane. It is twice the height of Mount Everest measured from sea level. It's like double the height of any cruising plane. Within the embrace of a towering mountain's grandeur, time seems to stand still with a profound sense of awe. From spiritual reverence to the thrill of adventure, mountains stand as more than geological formations. They embody the spirit of exploration, resilience, and the untamed beauty of our world. So fine, let Everest keep its crown as the tallest kid on the block. You know the real story now. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I made another video about how much water is actually on Earth, and spoiler alert, it's a lot less than you're probably anticipating. It's a fun video, check it out right here. It's actually part of a whole playlist of a bunch of these videos that I've made, so I think you'll enjoy them if you enjoyed this one. So stick around, watch it, and I'll watch you in the next one.